Me. A guy tells me to know my place. Whether you are my husband, my what, I'll just be like, check the hand, see the hand, I'm out of here. So guys, I was having a conversation with someone very close to me in my family. And they were telling me about just updating me on their love life and what's been happening and everything. And I'm much older, and I know they'll watch this and they'll be like, Lillian, I can't believe you went on social media, on YouTube, and you said this anyway. But yeah, so I love you too. But I was thinking about it, and it triggered the foundation of this, what I want to talk about right now. Because they were talking about somebody that they had met and they were in the talking stage. By the way, guys, how do you people manage the talking stage? It is a very interesting stage to be at. Anywho, so, and they gave me, like what this person is saying and doing and stuff. And after a while, I was like, this guy doesn't love you or care like that, And she was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, this guy, please listen to me. I have been the queen of failed relationships, in this sense that I have tried dating and I have met potential people, and for whatever reason it hasn't worked. And over the years, I have self-introspected, I have come into my own, and I have discovered that there was a lot of things that I needed to learn about the relationship scene, about dating, about love, what love is. And I know I've talked about that in previous episodes about what is unconditional love, and talked about unrequited love, how you can love somebody and they don't love you back. And so I talk about this from a lens where I've been there, done that. I'm still in the phase of dating and hopefully dating for marriage eventually. So I'm not an expert per se, but I can say that I have gained a lot of wisdom along the way from my own experiences and those of other people. So the other day when I was talking to this family member of mine, I realized that there's this thing that I read a while ago, and I don't know if I read it or I heard it, that a man, and the men on this who are watching can confirm, that men are meant to love their women, and women are meant to respect their men. Now, I heard that was like, I heard it sometime. And when I heard that, I was like, wow. You know how I realized I had been getting it all wrong, that I'm the kind of person who, I love love. By the way, I'm in love with love. I've said this before. I think love is such a beautiful thing. I think seeing people in love is amazing. Seeing relationships and marriages that are working, for me, is bliss, right? And I obviously aspire towards the same. But what I have seen from the relationships that do actually work and last, I have noticed, when I think about what I heard this person saying about a man loving the woman, I noticed that my friends who are in really healthy relationships and really good marriages, the man absolutely adores the wife, right? And I mean, the men who will watch this podcast whenever, please just comment and let me know if this is accurate, because I've been thinking that that's basically it. So even when I was telling my family member, please, this guy, put him on the shelf a bit, is because I was like, what I was hearing was not really tallying with the fact that this guy loves them, and the fact that the women are meant to respect their husbands is actually true. So what I found is, even in my own personal experience, when I've dated and it didn't work out, I realized, guys, I was the one who was making all the effort in the relationship. I was the one who was in love with this human being. going out of my way, extending my way, and guys, I've always been the nice chick. I'm that chick. I'm that nice chick. Like, if I'm in love, I am in love, and I will be very nice. I will go out of my way. But I realized that you can be all that as a woman for a man. You can do everything. You can, and we see it all the time. You see women moving in with their men and starting to build their lives before the man has even committed, washing their clothes and cooking for them and acting like their wifey. And it doesn't always end well. I think there are people who maybe it works and they get to the altar, but I really, really wonder if long-term that's a sustainable thing to do as women, because I found that even biblically, and for me, I really speak from a point of faith and speaking as a Christian. I don't know about other religions, but what I've learned biblically, from a biblical perspective, is that there's a verse in the Bible, I can't remember the exact verse, I don't know if it's in Corinthians, the book of Corinthians. It says, husbands, love your wives. But what is interesting is there's the instruction to love your wives as you love yourself. So husbands are being told to love their wives as they love themselves. And women are asked to submit to their husbands, but in the submission, there's the element of respect. Sometimes, I remember listening to, actually, let me give you this story. So I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I was to speak at a conference or a summit. I was a panel speaker. And I was supposed to just speak about my entrepreneurial journey and everything. So in that event, there was another speaker who was meant to be speaking on relationships, because they had an amazing many years of relationship with their late partner. And, so they were like the expert on in the event to speak on relationships. So I remember being very interested. Like, guys, I've been single for a while. So, when you're single, you get used to being alone. So sometimes the information that used to be at the tip of your hands about things relationship wise are not like they don't come naturally. So I really get fascinated when I hear these talks of relationships, and when people who have been at very successful relationships giving their advice. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I kind of know why I'm single, right? Because really I've not extended myself like that. So this lady was sharing an experience where within her marriage to her late husband unfortunately passed on, but within the marriage they had a beautiful marriage. They ended up having like 5 kids, really loving home, from what I gathered. And she was just reminiscing about their relationship with the late husband. And I remember she said something like, one time they had a tiff. I think the hubby, they had a date with the wife, like the way husbands and wives, they date each other. So they had their date night. Now on that date night, they're supposed to now, just the two of them, spend their time together. And so now this lady, she comes, whatever is date night, she's ready for date night. But then what happens, when you have kids, right? Kids can really mess up the flow sometimes. So, the kids wanted to hang out with the dad a bit. So they ended up, I think, watching a match or something, soccer dads. Yeah. So they ended up watching a match, and kind of date night kind of fizzled because now the kids were there and stuff. So this lady, she's like, this dude, by the way, date night is not happening. She goes to bed. The next day, she wakes up. She's like, okay, makes breakfast. Then the guy, husband, comes down. I think they were living in a maisonette or something, maisonette. And he comes down to the kitchen and he's going to work, but he's all like moody or something. By the way, this is a story. This is third-hand information. I don't have the details correct. So I'm just giving you my version of how I understood the story. So the guy comes, he's like, good morning, he's grumpy and everything. And she's wondering, where is my husband? grumpy. Like, we went to bed, I left him with the kids, and then she's like, anywho, it's all right. So it's kind of like a cold war has ensued. So they go to work, the guy's not talking, they're driving to work, they come back home, he's still not talking. Hash is like, hiya. I think they slept that night. Again, maybe I exaggerate this story, but yeah. And they were just not communicating. So she just like, you know what? Let me ask this guy, like, what's going on? So she goes and asks the guy, by the way, babe, why are you grumpy? And the guy is like, he's still, upset. And he's like, I think he told her, you need to know your place. Now, guys, me, when I heard that, he told her, like she's asking, inquiring, like, what's the beef? Why are you showing me attitude, my love, And he's like, you need to know your place. And she's like, what? So what happened was, like, if I was her, for sure, it would have gone into a whole new argument. It'd be like, know your place. What do you mean know your place? But for her, she was calm. No wonder she's a wife. She was a wife. Calm. And she took time out and she was like, she later on, she went and, just said, let's have a conversation. Please explain to me what knowing your place means. And the guy now told her that he felt bad that she went to bed on their date night. So she was now telling him, but you can't be upset because the kids were there, you were entertaining them. And he was like, you needed to have waited, kind of thing. And let me tell you guys, I listened to her saying that story. And at that particular point in time, I was like, me. A guy tells me to know my place. Whether you are my husband, my what, I'll just be like, check the hand, see the hand, I'm out of here, kind of thing. But later on, I think she kind of gave a bit of more explanation around that. And what came out of the entire disagreement with regards to her waiting for her husband and everything was not really the fact that he really meant to know your place like that. It was more of, he kind of just felt like she didn't care. And what she realized was that for him, that not caring, for him, it meant the language was that he felt disrespected. Like, she just doesn't care. So she's just doing her thing. She's just gone to bed. She's not even bothered about keeping to her agreement. Like, they had an agreement and she didn't bother to wait to discuss the agreement. And she just made the decision to go to bed without consulting him. So for him, it was almost like a show of disrespect. And based on what I just said, that women need to respect their men, I realized that for men that is important, right? And what I learned from their relationship was that this man, based on what this woman had been talking about and explaining about him, he really, really loved his wife. He really, like, his wife was the first thing outside of everything else in their relationship. She was number one in his life. Now, this can be debatable for a lot of single people out there. I've usually had these conversations whereby you're probably talking to somebody and, especially if you're single like myself and you're trying to get to know somebody, and there's usually a tug of war in terms of how to spend time with each other and things like that. But what I've learned is when we prioritize each other in a relationship, if we understand what is really important to the other person. And for me, what I've learned is men want to be respected, and women want to be loved, right? So for me as a woman, I would not get married or settle for a man that doesn't love me. There's a point in time when I didn't think love was such a big deal. I thought that as long as I love the man, I can fix anything. Like, I can go. But then I realized it's important that the man loves me more than, not necessarily more, but he really loves me. Because if he doesn't, and like women who, when we get into a relationship, and I was just telling someone earlier, that women, the way we are wired is we are very malleable by nature. That is our nature, because God created us in a certain way, right? So it's easier for us to adapt to our environment than the men. So if, for example, I meet a guy and I don't necessarily love him, I can eventually learn to love him, and that will still work in the relationship, as opposed to the guy meeting me and being like, okay, Lillian is cool people, she's fun to be around. I don't dig her like that. I'm not in love with her, but I think I'd love to make her my wife. Like, would be really cool. It's very hard for that guy to shift from that thinking into love in the relationship. What I've learned is, and maybe the men who are listening can confirm, is men don't change per se in terms of how they love their women. If you find a guy like this, that's how he is. Women, on the other hand, we tend to adapt to our environment. So we can end up falling in love with literally anybody. And that's why sometimes you find that there are such gorgeous women, intelligent women, and they're just dating weird people. And you're wondering, how did the two of these people pair? But you find that the things that we like are very different from what men like. So I don't know if this is making sense, but going back to what I was telling my relative the other day, like, if this guy doesn't love you, and if he doesn't act like he loves you, and not just act, he doesn't show that he loves you, because also what I've learned is there are men out here who are very big on saying things and doing things. In this sense, like, they will meet you the first time, they will schmooze you, they will wine and dine you, they will do all those things that girls like, but that effort only lasts a week or two or a month or so. I always tell people that, if you want to know if a guy really loves you, and this is to my lady friends, and the men can confirm, if you really want to know if a guy really loves you or really likes you, look at his staying power. Like, how long is he able to sustain his initial behavior? So what I found is a lot of guys who are also not very self-aware, they may not even be doing this consciously or even trying to get to hurt a woman or anything. They're just not conscious that they do this. They are very good at the chase. And they're very good at the chase for whatever reason. So they will pull out the red carpet, they will throw in the flowers and take you on trips and everything. And for them, they're thinking they're loving you or they're showing you affection, but they don't really care, right? And only depending on how long they're able to sustain that. Because I always say, for how long will you take me to wine and dine before you get tired? Kind of thing. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting thing that happened, where I had this woman not getting upset because her husband said, know your place. And for me, in my head, I was thinking, if a man said, know your place, Lillian, I would be like on their case, like I would be livid. But then I'm coming to appreciate that actually meant respect, that men want to be respected. And so I also want to finish with this, that sometimes a lot of people don't want to be told what they should and not do in a relationship. And so for me, I'll end it this way. If you find what I've said difficult to take in for whatever reason, usually for me, because again, I'm a person of faith, I always say, what would Jesus do? And biblically, I follow the biblical principle that men, love your women as you love yourself, and the way Christ loves the church. And women, submit to your husband with respect. Yeah. So women, stop falling head over heels in love with your men without thinking about whether they love you back. Because men don't change, women will always change. Yeah. So that's it for today. Thank you guys. See you soon.